Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday, everyone. Subtitles are working, always good. My name is Fiona. This is, well, firstly, my pronouns are she, her. Always must remember doing that. Excuse me. And this is Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPGs, in which it is an accountability stream in which we do some reading of an RPG that has caught my eye or has been selected by the random number generator. Hello, Kieran. So glad to have you here. Sorry, it's a bit of a stumbly start to today. I hope everyone is doing well. The heat dome in the US continues. All hail the heat dome. I hear it is. Oh, well, first of all, happy solstice for yesterday on the Thursday. The reason it's not today on the 21st of June is because it is a leap year. So I've had to do the actually to people. So, well, actually, it happened yesterday. But happy solstice, everyone. If you celebrate, happy summer. Summer is officially here, so it's exciting. I hope you're all doing well. I did my daily constitutional. I'm sure you're all glad to know. I quickly got out of bed and did all the things, and now I get to read this RPG before getting into doing some actual RPG editing, which I desperately need to do. Let's get straight into it then, because I am very excited to do this particular RPG today. So today, friends, foes, and family of tabletop RPGs, we are going to look at Eat the Reich, a tabletop RPG recently has come out from Rowan Rook and Descartes, written by Grant Howitt, aka of Honey Heist fame, and of, Spire and Heart and all these other things, Hollows as well, which we looked at a couple of weeks ago, and art layout by Will Kirby. And I'm going to mention Will Kirby a lot in this because this is frankly one of the best, most evocative bits of art in an RPG that I've ever seen, and we'll see why in a second. So, I will quickly read out the thing, but I'll just go over. Let's do some quick content warnings before anything else. Actually, Fiona, before you dive straight in. So, disclaimers, of course, at the top. I am not a game designer by any means. I run a lot of RPG games. I run 2 podcasts that are podcast related, RPG related, and and I have played quite a number of Rowan Rook and Descartes games. I've interviewed the Rowan Rook and Descartes team before, but this is not a sponsored thing. It's just me and my own opinions reading through an RPG that's come out, and I've gone, wow, this is going to be an interesting one for people to see. And I will say, for complete transparency, I am going to Gen Con this year, and I will be helping out on the Rowan Rook and Descartes stalls and help run some of their games and stuff, which is a very delighted opportunity to have. But one of their stalls is an Eat the Reich stall, because they're trying to do a big push for this book that came out earlier this year. As I wanted to say, not sponsored by them to do this at all. More out of interest of being, and this is because it's something I really enjoy doing as part of learning about RPGs in general. Let's talk about content warnings. There's going to be vampires in this. There's going to be mentions of Nazis and fascism. There's probably going to be a lot of ultra-violence and gore. If that is not your bag, I totally understand. Please, please, please take care of yourself and step away as you need to, because this is a particularly different RPG. To say it wears its themes on its sleeve it's pretty accurate. But yeah, I think it's very important to look at these games and again, it's that sort of thing going, why has someone made a game like this, and is there an appeal for it, all that sort of thing? I'd say yes, absolutely. It sounds great, and the artwork I think really makes it. I think this is one of those things where if you're not, maybe you might be interested by the topic, but the artwork you're like, well, now I'm in, that sort of thing. So I'd say that off the top. But yeah, just a disclaimer at the top that those are the main ones: of vampires, fascism, Nazi, certainly war themes for sure. Probably ultra violence and gore, and I'm going to say that probably every 2 minutes as I come up against something on here. But just letting people know at the top. So, Eat the Reich is a tabletop role-playing game in which you... Actually, why am I doing that? I need to go to the thing. So we're going to go and look at the page where you can get Eat the Reich. I've put a link to it in both the description and on the chat, but let's go straight to the page where you can get it. I've said this before. Rowan Rook and Descartes had recently, in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 months, redeveloped their website. And it looks so much better. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I really like it. Let me just move it back a little bit. I think it's one of the best things they've actually done is to revitalize this website. And I also will look at the Kickstarter as well, because if you did back the Kickstarter, you got some exclusive little goodies as well as part of the package. But yes, the year is 1943. You are a team of crack vampire commandos with one mission: drink all of Hitler's blood. One thing I would absolutely recommend, I'll just go down here. You see, there is a video, there's a trailer. This is the Kickstarter trailer. I highly recommend you check it out because the voice on said trailer is sort of describing the voiceover stuff. It's really good. I really like it. You know who it is? It's good friend Sharmini Bundell of RP Geeks that got to do it, and I honestly, she does such a cracking job. I'm very envious that she got to do that sort of thing. So yeah, I always listen to it when I see sort of Eat the Right stuff. I'm like, oh, that's Sharmini Bundell's voice. So there you go. So yeah, Eat the Right is a tabletop role-playing game in which you, a vampire commando, are coffin-dropped into occupied Paris and must cut a bloody swath through Nazi forces en route to your ultimate goal, drinking all of Adolf Hitler's blood. Written by Grant Howitt and illustrated by Will Kirby, who did stuff like Roll and Dark Horse. This is an over-the-top, ultraviolent game designed to be played from beginning to end in 1 to 3 sessions of carnage, blood magic, meaningful flashbacks, and hundreds upon hundreds of extremely dead fascists. It tells one story, it tells it loud, and it tells it brilliantly. Think Wolfenstein crossed with Danger 5 and you're not too far off the mark. Great. Simple, straightforward, has that quick, great copy that grabs people in. What I do like that they do, certainly on Rome Card, since the redevelopment of their website, they said, what's in the book? I mean, they do it, but it makes it obvious what it is. So it's like a quick to learn D6 dice pool system, the Havoc engine. I don't know if that's different to any of the other, because they've got the Resistant engine for the Spire and Heart systems. We've got enemy reinforcement rules, pre-generated character, iconic characters with room to level up, gruesome augmented Ubermensch to drink their blood to level up, and non-accurate maps of Paris with lots of location details and ideas for fun things to destroy. Now, one thing I want to just mention here, and I'm sure it will go into it in much detail. I love that it's red on the thing there. Is that it gives you pre-generated characters, and one of the reasons that they said like there are rules later. They do sort of give you sort of advice for how to create your own vampire commanders later, but they said that they didn't want to make it a glorious thing, this idea. I remember reading some interviews about it. It's like, well, we want to give you pre-generated characters because we don't want to encourage people to hack the system and then maybe make fascist characters, all that sort of thing. They've said, like, just stick to these. And that's the thing. It is, I think, very strict in what this game is because they don't want people to misinterpret it or hack it to go against its original intentions, which I think is actually a really good thing. And I will say, having the quickest flick through of this book, it is quite transparent in why it has been created and what this book is, which I think is very good. So there shouldn't be, she says, touch wood, any room for misinterpretation of stuff. And now they're going to do a big push for it as well. One thing as well, it got funded in 31 minutes according to the little thing on Kickstarter. That is bonkers. I'm going to say it. It's absolutely bonkers. Oh, that was the bit I was going to say. This one. It has the rules at the bottom. Again, I would put it up here just so we can all see it. But Eat the Reich uses a simple D6 dice pool system. Players can declare their intent and work out the size of their dice pool. It averages to about 6 and then roll them and discard any that show 3 or below. Any that show 4 or more is spent to achieve the current objective, destroying Nazi defenders defend against incoming damage or gulp down mouthfuls of fascist blood. Random gap there. Maybe it's just the way maybe it's justified this thing here. Nothing too complex, but we think it flows nicely and means that the rules will never get in the way of your campaign. Nice. Very good. And got some reviews there. Got some 5-star reviews, which is quite nice. But yeah, I did want to just check out. So again, we'll come into what we think of the cover and stuff like that in a second. But I think it's important to look at the physical copy. I don't think it's very well shown on this particular website. So we're going to go through this one. Like, I think it looks so much better on the Kickstarter, again, because it's not, you can see the whole book per se. But that little thing in the middle, sort of the sort of little peep patch, I guess, that's a cutout in the book. And I don't, and maybe it shows it later on, like the actual physical version of it. And it's really good. And it's so much brighter in person. I've seen this book in person. It's so much brighter. The colours really pop as well. And I think this photo does not do it justice as a result. If you did back the Kickstarter, not only did you get like PDFs and all the goals and all that sort of thing, you got a ton of stuff like a box, everything in the dossier, and you get stuff like a soul jar, like bits of like ephemera for each of the characters here. So Nicole's heart locket, Chuck's tooth necklace, like a lot of stuff, which for me, I'm like, that is wow. Look at these gorgeous images that Will has done of each of the characters, each of them with their own sort of personality for this game, which is great. We also have Flint, the Bat person, which is great. But yeah, the thing is that for me, and look, you got some pins, for example. I did. There's some really cool things here, and again, it shows that the I'm trying to say this. It shows that marketing works. If you get your marketing right, like people, buy into this sort of thing. Just for me though, I like this box. Like, it's a bit like if anyone's here that's played Vampire the Masquerade, they had something like an Ultimate Editions box recently, which was a ton of stuff, like £400 worth of like books and scrolls and stuff. And it's like an artifact thing. You'd find stuff in it, and I'm like, that's really cool. If I really enjoyed Vampire the Masquerade. And maybe it had some stuff that's exclusive, like exclusive books, etc., that you couldn't get anywhere else. Sure. But then I feel like but maybe I just want the book. I don't need all the ephemera. I don't need like I don't need the black cigarettes. I don't need the bone charm per se. Like, it's very cool, maybe again to play and have that sort of thing as for your character, but not for me. I find that I've already got a lot of stuff. Maybe that's what I'm like. I have way too much stuff. So that's why for me, I'm like, I'm not too fussed about this stuff personally. And maybe people get very excited about this. Like, I like the idea. I mean, I'm always talking about postcards, right? I'm always talking about patches and stuff like that. So that stuff I totally get. But I don't particularly like additional things which I'm like, I'm never going to use it. Like, art stuff I can always appreciate. So that's the only thing I'd say is that I've said this before with Kickstarters. I'm not a fan of like t-shirts and hats and stuff, especially for a game that I haven't played yet. Like, I can be excited for something, but I always will get the PDF and stuff like that and then buy later. So that's the only thing. But these obviously are very exclusive to the Kickstarter for people who back. So there you go. Anyway. Oh, Kieran says, the art is lovely. I'm a big fan of that really vibrant, almost garish even colours against that dark background. Absolutely. Again, in person, the book looks absolutely cracking. But so I don't think this photo does it justice, which is a shame. But yeah, these colours onto the actual... Let's go to the... so good. And you'll see it on my screen as well. What I'll show you when I go to the PDF. Actually, I'll do it now. Why don't I just do it now? Rather than making it hard work on myself. I also tried to find decent music that would work with this, but it's not. Like, first of all, wow, how cracking is that image? But the other thing, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. The other thing I'd say, it's not a fully A4 book, or size per se, but I'm going to click through it first, which I don't normally do. I normally do it at page tab. But the reason I want to do this is because I want to show people what it looks like as a 2-page spread. I think to really appreciate this book, you have to see it as a 2-page spread, as if you've got the physical copy to look through. First things first, again, this is about 76 pages for the full core book, which is literally, when you say it, it is one adventure with pre-generated characters that takes place over 1 to 3 sessions. So it doesn't necessarily have like a long campaign per se, like it's maybe got replayability to it, but it's like a one and done game. That's how I see it, at least. But I want to show you the spread of it, because I think you can only appreciate the amount of work that's gone into it. So I'm just going to flick through. Like, how cracking is this interior art layout done by Will? Like, again, you've got that thematic, the immersiveness there. Got a tongue, random. And each page is something different. Every time I flick through, I'm like, there's this, there's that, and look at that artwork. To really see it, let me move it over a little bit so you can get that full image there. And obviously you've got that idea of like blacking out and censoring stuff that they did in the wars, that sort of thing. This sort of dossier type like feel to it. It's absolutely gorgeous. But then the colour, you've got this sort of bright, vibrant reds, the blood splatter. You've got garlic over here. And you've got the character sheets, which obviously will come to in a second, but they are so vibrant. Like, it's just perfect, right? And certainly these character sheets, they're all on one page, so to speak. So there's nothing back and forth, so you've got a little bit of backstory, all that sort of thing. It's absolutely gorgeous, and each of them feels so unique and different. So yeah, so I just wanted to show a couple of that, sort of like how like the style works so well. That said, I'm just going to zoom back to the beginning, because there's a couple of things I want to say. So from me, because I did back the Kickstarter, and I'm sure you get this as well if you bought the PDF now. So this is a web version of the PDF. So as you saw that you could do like a little bit of like, again, is accessible in terms of texting. We'll find out about the artwork in a second, obviously. But the character sheets, actually, maybe I should show those character sheets again. Here, in the book, you can see they're form fillable. They're actually form fillable in the book itself, which is, I've never seen that before, which is quite cool. You can click things as well to mark things off. That's pretty big. So all you have to do really is send this book to people, because obviously it's got the whole game included in it. As long as they don't read the mission, they've got it all there. That said, you can get the... Oh, that's not the one I was looking at. Damn. You can get the character sheets separately. And again, they are web accessible. They're form fillable, which is fantastic. But again, they are pre-generated ones, so there isn't much to fill in, but you can still use them to mark stuff off, which is great. And yeah, you can get them all together. I will say you don't get them separately. But again, not at the end of the world. The fact you can get it separately from the book. It would be nice if they were just like, here's just one page. So you can tell here that they are just one big page compared to, say, this one, which clearly has a line through it where it's obviously 2 pages. Then the other thing to say, which I always think is cracking, there is a free, not a free, but with your purchase, you get a black and white text-only version as well, which, again, fantastic, great. Again, it still feels like tiny writing, I will say, but they've taken all the art out of it and the layout of it, so it is readable, which I think is cracking, and I'm a big fan of that sort of thing. So yeah, so if for whatever reason you do find the artwork a little bit too garish or a bit hard on your screen or something like that, there is a black and white version as well, which I may refer to if I can't understand what the words are. I just thought I'd mention that as well. So already I'm like, this is pretty good, and I know I mentioned it before. Let's head on back to... Oh, those are the character sheets, aren't they? Oopsie. Let's go back. Let's start right at the beginning. So those are the first initial thoughts I wanted to just share with people before we got in. I love this cover so much. I think it's so evocative. I love the font and the style of the logo. Eat the Reich. Like, again, you've got the vampireness of it. It feels sort of bloody. It just is in your face, but it's still readable compared to the view screen RPG we looked at a couple of weeks ago, where I could not read what the logo was. This really feels very minimalist in the sense of text. Obviously, we've got Howard, Kirby, Eat the Reich, the web version. It's nice to know that this is web version 1.1 as well, so you know instantly which version you've got, which I think is a-okay. And yeah, I just think it's good. And then you know if you turn the page, you have this inside cover of the vamp in it. Obviously, in the PDF, you don't have that, but in the physical book, you do. Or at least I believe you do. I say this, I don't actually have a physical book. I only have the PDF, but this is what I've been led to believe. So, what I will do for the read-through of this, I am going to switch to single-page view just to make it easier and for us not to get distracted. But again, I just wanted to show what it looked like as a two-page spread. All right, so again, I just the detail of it. So not only do we have like these little dossier, like little like manila like paper, but like even stuff like this, the tape used. Oh, my mouse is very sensitive. Even the tape used here is quite good. Oh, it looks like it is accessible. Sorry, not accessible. It is hyperlinked as well. As I'm holding over things, it tells me it's setting your game, and I presume if I just click save this one, it heads me straight to there. Fantastic. I love that. Big fan of that. But there is no alt text. That is unfortunate. I think that is unfortunate. People do forget about the alt text, but it would have been nice to... I think for a book like this, it would be nice to have something. But again, maybe this is too much art. I think it's always worth having it. But they do have it as an accessible text-only version. So maybe that's all right on that one. It's copyrighted or good. Climate neutral product. Just go with the QR code. I wonder what that does. Oh, it talks about the publisher. That's pretty cool. and their sort of values and stuff. So, one thing I would say right at the bottom there, you probably can just see it. I'll zoom in a little bit. A little bit. It says, content warning, this game includes death, violence, grievous injury to players, characters, and non-player characters, blood, vampirism, mental domination, guns, animated corpses, werewolves, occult magic, fascism, Nazis, and Adolf Hitler. Always good. PDF remediation. What that means. Alright, the year is 1933. Europe is in flames. You are a unit of crack vampire commandos with a single objective: drink all of Hitler's blood and fatally destabilize the Nazi war machine. Again, stuff like this, like eyes only telegram. No alt text, unfortunately. But there, words by Grant Howitt, art by Will Kirby. Like, the detail on it, like, again, and I've zoomed in a little bit, and so the text is readable, but the image behind it is not as much, which is a little bit of a shame. But, like, repetition of words free, like, here, that, like, the cut, here, the tear in it here looks so good. Alright. Ooh, keeps flicking around. I think that's because my mouse is very sensitive. I had to change that. So let me just change that whilst I remember. That's not going to do it. Fine. We'll live for it for now. It's fine. So welcome to Eat the Reich. The text is quite small, admittedly. I will try and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, welcome to Eat the Reich. By using this book, you and your friends will be able to craft over-the-top stories of action, ultraviolence, carnage, and supernatural chaos together. What is it? It's a tabletop role-playing game built around a single scenario, the final vampire mission to retake occupied Paris at the close of the Second World War. What it isn't? An open-ended campaign game where you can explore the the details of your bespoke character. Who is it for? Players and game masters who want an all-action pulp adventure ready to go out of the box, and those who aren't squeamish about it when it comes to descriptions of dead fascists. What is a role-playing game? Every role-playing game, or RPG, is different. For the most part, they're a creative storytelling game that you play with a group of 3 to 6 people for several hours at a time. Over the course of play, you build a narrative by following the rules in the game book, rules that usually govern unexpected or challenging consequences of your actions. I think that's a nice summary of what it is. Kieran says, good to see the content warnings there, but again, I'm a bit disappointed they weren't on the product page in the website. In order to see the content warnings, you first need to buy the book. Agree. I think we've talked about this before. I think with Hollows, right? I think that's what we're talking. I'm just going to go back to Eat the Reich. Have a look-see. Yeah, you're right. I feel like it's one of those things where people just assume that you would know, but it's all. I mean, all it takes is like an extra little box here saying content warnings, fascism, vampires, etc. And I mean, it's one thing to say like it should be obvious. It doesn't always. It doesn't always. And like, for example, if I go back to those content warnings, again, it is nice to have, but they are at the bottom of this book. And they're in kind of tiny writing when maybe they should be a bit further up. Maybe they should even be like at the top of the page here rather than at the bottom. That's just the thing I would suggest there, perhaps. And I know the thing is that I do know this book will obviously go into lots of detail about it, but I agree. If you're paying already £12, not £12, how much is this book again? I normally say how much it is. So the PDF is $15, so what, like £13? But then the soft cover and the PDF is about $30, so about £27. So yeah, if you're spending that much money already for basically like a one-shot scenario, you kind of would like to know what's in part of that scenario, even though it may seem obvious. It feels like an afterthought than a priority. Absolutely, I completely agree with you there. And I think it's the same we've talked about when we talked about it before, about accessibility, people not thinking about it beforehand, only thinking about it after. Like, for example, the alt text stuff. I know I go on about it all the bloody time, but actually, I quite like being able to find the alt text and be like, oh, so this is what the art, because usually it's the artist writing stuff out. It only has to be like a couple of lines or two. It doesn't have to explain everything, but it's always never mentioned. And then when people put it, it's always like a description of X. And you're like, oh, have a think about it. So I'm with you on that front there. I will say that I do like this image here of like a dental X-ray of some vampire teeth, and then here on the right, in one of the, I'm going to say a molar, looks like to be like a garlic pill, like one of the cyanide pills, as an example of that, which is pretty cool, I think. Again, going into that theme of like, undercover spies and the war sort of thing. So what is this role-playing game? So most of you will be playing vampires. These are the player characters. The player characters are the stars of the show, and everything revolves around them. All the player characters are in the Eat the Reich are pre-generated, which means you don't have to go and make them yourselves. They're ready to go. One of you won't be playing a vampire. You will be playing the game master or GM instead. Now, obviously, normally I'm like, I want to be immersed in this. I want to have like names for players and stuff, and names for the GM. Obviously, I think this is a bit tricky on this one, perhaps, understandably so. But I think like operatives and maybe like mission control or something like that. Like your handler, etc. Because that'll be fun. That'll be interesting. But I understand not everyone cares, but I care. The Games Master is in charge of everything that isn't the player characters. That includes knowing the rules and describing the world. For most groups, you'll also be deciding when and where to play, and ensuring that everyone has a good time. It's a role with a lot of responsibility attached to it, but it's a lot of fun once everything gets going. If you're reading this book, odds are you'll be the Game Master. That's how usually things shake out. And that's a very common thing in Run Rook and cards. They always sort of say that. And I think I said that yesterday when we looked at That's the Play's the Thing. He goes, well, one of your friends is probably going to be the playwright. And I was like, the friend? Absolutely. That's not good. It's going to be you. When you're at the table, your players will be in control of their characters' actions and their position in the story. Your role is to set up the world, react to their decisions, and facilitate use of the rules. Rules for Eat the Right are dead simple. You can learn more about them on page 30, which is hyperlinked. Oh no. Oh, it is hyperlinked. It's got a really weird colour there. Oh. This mouse is going to kill me. Give me 1 second whilst I sort this mouse out. It's not going to let me... I turned up the... There we go. Right. Why are we... What's wrong? Why are we going so fast? That's... Sensitivity. There we go. Let's move the sensitivity. Move it to there. Alright, are we happy? Are we good, mouse? God. Honestly. Right. Okay. Where were we? What is the Havoc engine? The Havoc engine is a simple, straightforward tabletop role-playing system with a focus on action, procedural scenes, objective-based challenges, and free-form player creativity. It's what Eat the Reich is based on. You can learn more about it at Run Rook and Card Havoc. Let's have a see. We'll look at the website. It's loading. Ooh. Okay. The Havoc Brigade. Interesting. I hadn't heard of this one before. So, Havoc Brigade, you're the meanest cunningness, most brutal orcs around, and you've been selected for a special mission. Oh, so it's like almost like a reskin of this particular game. I hadn't heard of this one. Other small works you'll enjoy. So these are some of the earlier ones. So it's a one-shot tabletop RPG for up to 6 players and 1 GM. It's system illustrated characters city map stuff. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. Using the Havoc system. Well, maybe we'll look at that at some other point. So for this book, for the Havoc Brigade, you're gonna infiltrate the human city of Freiburg, or Freiburg, and abduct Prince Theodore Holstein. Ooh. So your superiors can interrogate him for information on the Allied war plans. Of course, no one thought to specify who's in charge of the group, and you've all got your own aims in mind for your time in the city. But you'll be fine, right? Holstein is going down. Interesting. And it would be nice to know when this book was out. It feels, obviously, it must be like maybe a one-page one-shot or something, a standalone game. I've never heard of it before. So, very cool. Very interesting. Alright. Alright, so let's get back onto it. Okay, the underlying ethical stance of this game. So, this game is not in and of itself an act of resistance. It is an act of creativity which reflects our frustration with the real world's ongoing Nazi problem. For some players, telling a story of fictional over-the-top combat against some of history's worst people feels fun and cathartic. For others, reenacting a fight against literal World War II Nazis feels depressing or distasteful. Pretending to be a monster feels raw and upsetting. Eat the Reich isn't for everyone, and there's no shame in not wanting to take part. That said, we think that in the real world, if someone indicates to you that they have chosen to become a Nazi, you should consider violence against them, within, of course, your abilities, safety, and convenience, before they choose violence against you or someone else vulnerable. We also consider anti-fascist violence meaningfully different from, say, violence against random orcs in a fantasy game. Nazis have indicated that they are evil, harmful, and oppressive to you by their choices, whereas killing an orc just because they were born an orc is definitely racist, and in brackets, and probably the sort of thing a Nazi. Interesting. I feel like we should have had this earlier. Again, obviously it's trying to justify why we've made this game. I think it's important. This actually should have probably been on the website as well. We were talking about those content warnings before. I think this should be on the website as well so that people know. We're gonna do it. Playing safe. So everyone at the table is responsible for everyone else's safety. Eat the Reich has the potential to become very upsetting very quickly, so you owe it to each other to take a few minutes to make sure no one is going to have a bad time. There are a wide variety of safety tools available for use, and we recommend using the following 3 as standard in your games. Setting expectations. That's something I always say. This is a very violent game in which players rip Nazis to shreds and drink their blood for occult power. It is not a horror game for you, because the player characters are so individually powerful, but it's definitely a horror game from the Nazis' perspective. If players aren't up for big, gross, stupid evisceration party, they should probably play it a different way. I think actually that's an interesting tool, actually, setting expectations. Like, I'm the same. I don't see it as a safety tool. I just say, like, it's just more like me as the expectations as the GM and what I expect from players. It comes down to those GM and player principles we often see in Powered by the Apocalypse games. And often with, like, say, I know I always refer to the Between, but one thing I like in Jason Cordova's writing is that he has the Between and Brindlewood Bay. They have that script at the beginning, the cats, so concept, aim, tone, and I want to say safety or subject matter, and you just read that script out to the player, so they all know what they're in for, and it takes like 2 minutes, and I think it's like, perfect. You don't have to justify anything. Lines and veils, we've got, we know what that is, the X card, which is good. Again, we won't go into too much detail. Why? You can also use the traffic light system as well. Red, yeah, so, okay. So yeah, so the 3, following 3 as standard, okay, I guess, okay, I feel like maybe the setting expectation should have been, stupid mouse, honestly. Hang on. Going everywhere, this mouse. Sorry. So the setting expectations, I think definitely should have gone somewhere else, because then we've got 3 things there, like the setting expectations, lines and veils, the red card, the X card. Then I do think like traffic light system also works here as well. So I would mention those 3 and then have the setting expectations elsewhere. I would definitely agree that it should be in the website. Even ignoring there's no shame in not wanting to take part, which I love, it feels like the sort of thing that would be good from an advertising point of view, as I'm sure those principles at the top would attract a lot of people, including some who would not otherwise be playing an RPG. I agree, that's a very good point. I think it's something about... It's interesting, because I feel like they're marketing for this personally. I've seen it's like, we're gonna, over the top. It's a bit like Dimension 20's next series, Never Stop Blowing Up. It's like those 80s, like, commando, like, blowing up things using a hack of kids on bikes, which they made themselves, which will be interesting. But, like, I think people will love that. They love the silliness of that. And then having this at the top, just to be like, we are being silly, but being transparent with it, I think that actually shows us as a sign of strength. Right? Because I wonder sometimes people go, we have to, again, maybe there's that whole thing about, like, woke culture that, oh, we're little snowflakes, all that, when that's the criticism we get, and so we don't necessarily often put the stuff out there. Maybe it's even like trying to trick people into playing these kinds of games and be like, haha, you played a game that is anti-fascist, and well, how do you feel? I'm in politics in games. I don't know. It's interesting because I could imagine certain people being put off by something like that if it was like loud and proud about it in like, hey, this is what we stand for, rather than like them experiencing it and then going, oh, interesting. It's like we've had stuff like we looked at Land of Eam, for example, and in Land of Eam it was like there was that review that said, I really like it, but then there's politics on the first page, 4 stars, and you're like, what? So I don't know. It's interesting. I think for me, I'm very much a big fan of wearing my heart on my sleeve and like being like, okay, you don't like my game, well then don't play it. I don't care. And I think you're right from a marketing point of view. I think it would work very well, but I know some people would think differently, perhaps. And maybe having it on the website would not allow it to be sold in certain countries, perhaps. I don't know. Again, these are just thoughts off the top of my head. It sucks because I think everyone should have access to certain games. I mean, like you might have heard recently in the US, I can't remember which state it is, unfortunately, but now they've passed a law to put all 10 commandments on a poster in every classroom in that state. And you're like, are you for real? Yeah. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, let's get away from that because otherwise I know we'll talk about stuff which I'm not necessarily all informed about myself, and I have certain ideas about it, but we don't want them to live forever on the internet, do we? But maybe we could talk more about this in this podcast because I do think it's quite an interesting topic. Like, should we put up stuff like this thing? And I think absolutely yes. But why wouldn't we do that? Is it just because we've forgotten about it? Is it, as you were saying before, Kieran, is it an afterthought rather than a priority? Or is it for some other reason that we've not thought of? And if so, why? There you go. Okay. There's a wide range of other safety tools available online, and if the ones suggested here don't work well for you and your group, you should take a look around and find some of those that you do. Again, I absolutely agree with that. What is always nice is that if they link to the tabletop RPG safety tool kit, that will be a good shout as well, because there's a load of different tools there, which would be good. But, anyway, so playing anti-heroes. So the vampires in the Reich aren't clean-cut, idealistic paragons of virtue looking to liberate the world from Nazi threat. They're here for revenge, adventure, to prove themselves, or in Flint's case, breakfast. The methods they use could be considered evil even when presented in context, because they are monsters after all. As a group, it is important to establish safe boundaries around what depths of evil the player characters will sink to during the course of the game. What follows is a suggested list of boundaries, modify it as you see fit. While this overlaps with the lines and veils outlined earlier, nice. It is more focused safely in navigating the vampire genre. Thanks to James Mendez Hodes for providing this framework. That's quite interesting. Oh, I like that idea. There is a more detailed checklist to use with this framework later on. Oh yes, we'll check that out then. And we would certainly encourage you to use this if there's any ambivalence or uncertainty in your group about where your boundaries lie. I think that's such a good point, because I think sometimes, again, I think Lines and Veils, if you have that Lines and Veils sheet that everyone fills out, I think that's better. Obviously, if you do that beforehand, I know it's a bit of work beforehand, but like if people fill it out beforehand, then you don't have to worry about thinking it on the spot what your Lines and Veils is. Because often what happens, that sort of discussion, which is always good, and it should always be organic, and it should always be a living document, all that sort of thing. Sometimes people go, I don't have any boundaries. And what they mean is that, oh, I'm okay right now. I agree with what's going on. The words, I don't have any boundaries, makes it feel like you are not caring about other people's boundaries. Like implied. I know that's not true. So I'm always like, oh, nothing in addition. That's what I always say. So I think having something like this, having people like focus on it, having something already set is very, very useful to have. And then you can add to it, for sure. And then if you need to take anything off it, as long as everyone consent to it. It's like the horror contract in Cult. It has a very similar vibe to that. What are the acts inherent to the scenario for which we will never question or interrogate? So drinking human blood for power, invading Nazi-occupied France, killing fascists. What are acts that we will engage with, but could be a point of conflict between the characters? Joy, excitement, or glory derived from killing fascists, collateral damage, and harm to civilians. What are the acts? What are the acts which are reserved for the civilians, non-player characters only? So murdering innocent civilians, fascism. What are the acts which even villains won't engage in? Rape or other sexual assault, deriving sexual pleasure from murder, and violence against children. Okay. Again, I think that's good. I think it's good. I do wish this was in its own little box, perhaps, or like so that really highlight it, because it just feels like it's just part of this. It is part of the same bit. I think you need to make it in bold so that people actually read it. I think that's quite easy to miss. I know they've underlined it a little bit, as if it's part of a mission briefing. But I think when you have stuff like the blackout lines, the censoring lines, which obviously used for a certain effect, it absolutely should be here. You know what I mean? So, a note on tone and content. General content warnings. So this game includes death, violence, grievous injury to player characters and non-player characters, blood, vampirism, mental domination, guns, animated corpses, werewolves, occult magic, fascism, Nazis, and Adolf Hitler. Some of these can be worked around. The vampires, Nazis, fascism, and Hitler, not so much. Again, it's good to repeat it. It is good to repeat it. But again, I would have had it in a box or something, or maybe have. They're doing it like little dossier like files, so maybe as its own sticker box or its own little piece of paper box. I wonder. Just going everywhere. Historical inaccuracy. So Eat the Reich is not one-for-one retelling of actual events that occurred in France during the Second World War. It assumes that the Nazis established a far greater presence in France than they did in the real world. Our reasoning behind this is primarily a shallow one. Liz Campbell, hello, happy Friday all. Happy Friday all. I hear there are vampires here. You've just made it after the second read through of the content warnings, Liz. Hope you're having a good time, my friend. Hope work was okay. Yes, we are looking at Eat the Reich. My bloody mouse is going absolutely wild. Come here. There we go. So yes, so yeah, you just got it. You just came in time. I hope you have a good time, or you've had a good day. We thought that fighting Nazis in 1940s Paris would make for an exciting story without being overly disrespectful to the memories of genuine tragedies. We've changed a lot about the city, a lot of things about the cities. We've had the invaders build extensive structures. We've homogenized landmarks. We've included generic Paris-style elements into the adventure without directly referencing many particular locations. We hope that this sets a tone that empowers the GM to play fast and loose with the details and improvise material on the fly rather than strive for historical accuracy. Also, the bit about vampires is made up. I have notes on the efficiency of those text redactions. Look, hey, I think it's about themes. What's the theme, Liz Campbell? No, I agree. I don't know. Maybe I wonder what the reason is for like why can we see them? Perhaps we are vampires and so we can see through the text. I don't know. Like, yeah, I agree. I think it's more to highlight certain bits rather than to redact certain bits. But I do like that. It's like, well, this cannot be accurate because I could see through these redactions. Innocent bystanders, the vampires' actions in Paris are wild, unpredictable, and dangerous. The longer they spend carving a bloody swath through the Nazi occupiers, the more chance they'll end up hurting or killing someone they didn't mean to. Or rather, it begins to seem outlandish if they don't, even by the standards of the narrative already established. As a table, you need to pick one of the following approaches to deal with representing collateral damage or come up with your own compromise. So, it is impossible for a vampire to cause serious physical harm to someone who isn't in Nazi uniform. Just don't describe it happen. Innocent civilians are not clear of falling debris, they get away at the last second, or they're shown stumbling to their feet once the smoke clears. It's outlandish, but so is everything else happening at the table. Or B, some collateral damage is inevitable, and unwilling sacrifices have to be made to secure victory. The vampires don't directly harm non-Nazis, but if they collapse a building by driving a tank into it, it makes sense for them to accidentally hurt and kill people. Just don't revel in it. That's not why you're here. Let's sketch out the human cost ending the war in this manner. I would suggest here, theme. I would suggest here something that Good Society I think does really well, and Storyboard does quite well. Is that it gives you like here's the default option, and then having like 2 or 3 options that you could go to. And I think here I wonder if maybe the reason there's a reduction here is that is the go-to option of the tone of the game. Like you should pick the second option, but it's not clear, is it? So I would say like for me in this game, because it's not, I would say that I would go for option A, right? I would make sure like because that's not. It's about you being the anti-heroes, but you're not. I don't. For me, I wouldn't be interested about the collateral damage. I don't need to. Like it says don't revel in it, but I think like no, they get away and all that sort of thing. It's just I think that's because you want to be heroic. It's about lesser evil monsters fighting actual evil monsters. So I think I would pick A as the default tone, perhaps. Actual discrimination. So racism is one of the fundamental elements of fascism, and so too are other forms of discrimination such as homophobia, transphobia, mistreatment of people with disabilities, and more besides. But here's the thing. It sucks to have actual discrimination at the table. So even if you're narrating the actions of card-carrying 1940s Nazis, don't yell slurs at players in character. It's not a cool thing to do, even if you're just pretending for the sake of the game. Plus, no matter the player character's ethnicities, they're all undead monsters with nightmare powers and a taste for blood. There's plenty of ways you can describe them in negative terms without relying on who their parents were, who they love, or what colour their skin is. I mean, absolutely. Again, I feel like I don't know, this is at the beginning of the book, so this is pretty good as well. But would this have worked as well being on the website still? So, I don't know. I think that's a good shout. There's a good shout though. It's like there's plenty of other things to sort of like say negative things about rather than like who your parents are. Absolutely. Look at that tongue, everyone. Lovely. Playing with history. With most games in historical settings, we generally prioritize these things in order. The health and safety and comfort of real people, especially the players in the game, a fun, functional play experience, historical and accurate detail. I think it has hella vibes. Hello, Naomi. Hello, my friend. How are you doing? You come in just in time. We're going through all the good sort of disclaimers about like, hey, don't support Nazis. So you'll need to depart from history, but as you do, 1. Don't invent new Nazi atrocities to communicate that Nazis are evil. Nazis are evil, and we already know why. Convincing someone Nazis are worth fighting is outside the scope of this game and your narrative. 2. Don't ascribe human historical crimes to different supernatural sources. It absolves those humans of guilt. You'll notice that we have no secret vampire or cosmic horrors manipulating the Nazis. There's the same Nazis as they were in history, but all the occult stuff actually works in this game. This game is not about the Holocaust. The Holocaust is an important topic, but sometimes we need to be able to tell the stories about the people the Nazis marginalized, which doesn't lead into Holocaust narratives. Incredibly fair. Don't harangue other players for not knowing World War II facts. Ugh. There's enjoying history, and there's gatekeeping, and the second isn't fun. If someone repeats something offensive or harmful, it's fine to correct them gently, but don't hog the spotlight spouting military history or making fun of others for not knowing tank specifications or French customs. Oh God, I can't imagine being friends with someone who knows anything about tank specifications or French customs. And don't pretend humans are helpless without vampire assistance. You're using your vampire powers to help, and that's excellent, but in real life, humans kicked Hitler's ass, and we would have probably done it even if he'd employed witches and werewolves. To expand on this last point, many war narratives generate pathos by focusing on the helplessness, passivity, or victimhood of the groups the Nazis targeted. We wanted to highlight the fact that every one of those groups mounted a determined resistance to the Nazi war machine, sometimes against impossible odds, sometimes in full knowledge that they wouldn't survive. Sometimes knowing that they would go home to countries which defeated Nazis and face hatred there as well. Right, that feels pretty good. God, tank people. Alright, so setting up your game. If you've run another role-playing before, you can probably skip the session, but otherwise read it out loud. So it's almost like, again, the cats thing as well. So who? You need to get together a group of sexy, exciting people to play this sexy, exciting game. Reach out to people who you reckon might be interested. You'll need between 2 to 6 players total. Show them the iconics and see which of them they're interested in. So the iconics must be the player characters, or the characters even. Where? You need to pick a place to play the game. You can run it online if you like. A lot of people do. But there's something about meeting in person around the table that really helps with telling stories together. I agreed. And maybe if you had back the big box thing and had all the ephemera stuff come, maybe that's what you'd do. Some folks play in the back room of bars or use a spare office at their university or place of work. I would say the back room of bars, absolutely, as long as it's not too noisy and you can get food. And if people would like to get drinks, they can absolutely get drinks if they'd like to. But also, make sure you leave all these places clean, because there's nothing worse if you booked a place to go play a board game or an RPG, and you get to their office space or you get to the bar and it's already messy and dirty because someone couldn't be bothered to do it. Warhammer or Historics, the age-old question. Kieran says, I like having these expectations laid out explicitly and without any ambiguity. It's something that the book has done very well so far. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the fact that this particular book, understandably so, compared to maybe other Rowan Ricard RPGs and other RPGs that we've looked at, because it's like, okay, we know what the story is. You have vampires in Nazi-occupied Paris. Your aim is to drink Hitler's blood. That's a very straightforward concept that everyone plays to. And as a result, here's all the stuff. Because I think sometimes we've had, like, with other games, it doesn't want to outline all the disclaimers and stuff right at the beginning because it gets into a lot of detail. Maybe we're like, oh, we don't have time, we don't have the page count to do it. But the fact they've taken the page count to do it, I think is very important. It's a bit weird to be shouting about Nazis in the back room of a bar. really want to make sure people know you're playing a game. That is actually quite true. Again, maybe you need one of those, like, yeah, that's true. Maybe not a bar. I don't know. You can go to the what's it called? It's not the Alchemists. The Arcanists Tavern. That's what it's called in London, right? Maybe go there. I think people would understand that you're either playing Hollows or this game. I brought round some more Guinness. Right, I shoot that Nazi in the head. When? If you have a job with regular daytime hours, you'll probably be only able to play in the evenings and weekends. Generally, it's more fun to have multiple short sessions than one long one, especially given that the pace and action of Eat the Reich can be a bit exhausting compared to more sedate role-playing games. Our recommendation is to pencil in two or three 2-hour sessions. That's more than enough time to explore Paris and kill Hitler, or die in the process. How long a role-playing game lasts is up to you and your group, and the myriad of demands on your time and attention. But we like to keep them to the 2 to 3 hour mark. Yeah, I do feel like, yeah, I always pencil in like 3 hours for these things, and then it's mostly 2 hours of game time, and then half an hour of like setup and chatting, getting settled, and then half an hour of what? Eat the Reich is set up to play as a single story. The climactic final strike against Hitler and his Paris stronghold. That's what's going to happen. This isn't a free roaming sandbox where the players are free to adventure in any direction and find their destiny. It is an assassination mission. We've given you all the details on lots of different locations in Paris, so whatever route the players take, there'll always be something interesting for them to do. So yeah, again, could have a bit of replay value this game as well, even though the scenario is pretty much straightforward. I do wonder if there will be more Eat the Right games in future. Maybe, like I said before, like witches or werewolves, and having those sort of like stories, I guess. But then having like it's in its own box, like Eat the Right Witch Edition, and then it's like a different scenario, a different mission. To then be able to play these different missions. Because if you've got one scenario and if you've played it maybe 2 or 3 times, it's like, well, that's kind of it though, even though it looks cracking as a book. So in Eat the Right, we give you pre-generated characters which you can play, each of whom have different skills, abilities, and background. They will also come with a few character hooks to make them play easier. Whilst the characters' mechanics are fixed, their backgrounds are entirely malleable. Keep the parts you like, discard those you don't, and add those that make sense during play. You don't need to start out with a fleshed out backstory beyond a few concepts. You can choose from 6 characters. I think it's Irina, a gothic socialite warlock who brought a cavalry saber from home. Nicole is a hard-bitten, gun-toting resistance explosive expert. Cosgrave is an East London wide boy necromancer. Chuck is a rotting cowboy just trying to get along. Astrid, who has an ancient predator's soul coiled around her own. And then Flint is a half-bat monstrosity who lives in a cave. Tag yourself. Which one are you today? Didn't think of this at the time, but given the game could be quite heavy, I would have liked to see a debrief or some other post-session safety tool listed in the recommended safety tools, or at least have it mentioned in safety after a session just as important during the session. 100%. Very good point, Kieran. I wonder if it may say it at the end of the scenario itself. Again, one thing I'm going to say is that, yeah, we're not going to look through the actual scenario. That's roughly the last 30 pages of the book. But you're absolutely right. I think for this, like having the check-in stuff and having that debrief, it is very, very important to do. And make sure, like, again, Stars and Wishes is always the one that I always think of as well. Like, I've really enjoyed killing Nazis. Stars for everyone. So, yeah, no, I agree with that. It's quite an interesting, yeah, to debrief and maybe an access to a bleed document. Again, no alt text, which is such a shame. Real shame. Okay. Who's who? It can be a good idea to recommend certain characters to certain players if you think they'll have a good time taking control of them. Here's a rough guide to give on who to give to who. So Irina is the poshest of all the characters and probably the best dressed. She has some abilities and equipment which allow for interesting descriptions of magic too. Players who want to be beautiful and elegant rulers of the night should enjoy playing her. I kind of like this. Like, sometimes you have it on the character sheet itself, it's like, play this character if you like X, Y, Z, but to have it in the book itself, I guess because obviously, again, it's a one scenario game, makes total sense to do that. Nicole has a bunch of guns. If someone likes guns, glorious self-destruction, or the linear application of extreme violence to complex problems, they may well like playing Nicole. Cosgrave is the most magical character, and his abilities come with the expectation that players will use them in creative ways. Give Cosgrave to a player who is comfortable with improvising in the moment. Oh, sounds like I'm Cosgrave then. Chuck is a good-natured cowpoke, but he eats corpses. Red flag. he's a 10, but he eats corpses. Give Chuck to the Joker in your group because he is incongruous. That's what I say. Incongruous, yeah, and has plenty of opportunities to make light of situations. Astrid is the most basic character in mechanical terms, and she is very good at fighting Nazis. If the player doesn't want to make too much complex, oh my god, I can hear the lawnmower outside. Doesn't want to make too many complex decisions. I just wants to rip Nazis apart, Nazis in half. Give them Astrid. How interesting! Like you can say, okay, this was more magical. You want a really straightforward character? Play Astrid. They've made a character that's deliberately straightforward to play. I love it. And finally, Flint is a half-man, half-bat monster who may or may not be able to talk. Players who are new to role-playing or talking in character may enjoy this opportunity to play a big, friendly, dog-like creature, though one that isn't very friendly to Nazis. Nice, I like that. And I'd also like, although it's not said here, that it feels like we've got some again, some pronouns here. So Irina's she, her, I believe. We don't have them for here for Nicole Cosgrave. Chuck seems to be he, him. Astrid is she, her, and then we don't know about Flint. But again, it would be nice to just again, I'm always a big fan of us sharing pronouns just so we've got it as well. But that could be quite cool on that front. Oh, I can see it here. It's like playing with identity. What? Should have read the whole of this page, shouldn't I? Okay, so playing with identity. So this game defines the 6-player characters as vampires only loosely because it should be easy to play as possible. It's up to you as players to provide the detail as and when you feel it's exciting, evocative, or appropriate. So our iconic vampires haven't got there we go. So our iconic vampires haven't got preset pronouns, religions, sexualities, or neurotypes. The character sheets and art suggest certain things about their bodies, ancestries, gender representation, and cultural backgrounds, but the game still works great if you modify those identities to fit your creative vision or to evoke your own real-world identity. If you or other characters share a character's marginalized identity, we trust you to get it right. If you portray a character with a marginalized identity you do not share, Can also be great, but if you stray into stereotype, you might make a player at your table feel uncomfortable, or develop bad habits which will lead you to uncomfortable interactions with marginalized people later on in the real world. Fair enough. Successfully and sensitively playing a marginalization you don't share is a complex skill. So this is a starting point. Interesting. Okay, so take and integrate other players' feedback on your portrayal gracefully, not defensively. Play this part of the vampire's identity as a deeply integrated element of their character, not an overlay that sits on top or a series of stereotypes. This means avoiding cliché, even if you have to modify what's written about the character, and introduce realistic elements from that identity at a logical narrative moment. Avoid in-depth identity trauma narratives. So, for example, if you're not gay and you play a gay vampire, it's fine to mention you've experienced homophobia, or that you hate Nazi oppression of gay people, but steer away from elaborate descriptions of anti-gay violence that you might have experienced in your backstory. Some tables may opt into the GM depicting identity-based oppression in detail. Nazi Germany persecuted people based on race, nationality, ethnicity, ability, gender, sexuality, and religion. For that matter, so did the other Axis and Allied belligerents. And that's not always and not always to lesser degrees. This kind of play is out of character hard mode. If anyone isn't into it for any reason, do not focus on it during this game. If depicting and fighting oppressive dynamics in bloody fashion sounds cathartic to everyone at the table, go for it. But take it slow, and go to the speed of those who are least comfortable and most affected by the subject matter. Players from marginalized backgrounds should get to control the degree to which their marginalization features in the game. How good is that? I think that's such a good like things to think about. Which again, we don't often get with RPGs. That we don't get like, hey, if you're playing like a tiefling or anything like that, here's something to think about. It's always almost like a placeholder or boilerplate text going like, just be careful and just respect people. Here, it's gone into like a real good depth about it, which I very much appreciate. And I absolutely agree with that first point. Take feedback on your trail gracefully and not defensively. Absolutely. If someone goes, actually, maybe consider this next time, go, oh, thank you. That's really important. So I think that's really good. I like this page a lot. I've seen other games encouraging people to play people of marginalized identities, but I don't think I've seen anyone giving advice on how to play a marginalized identity if you're not a part of that identity. I agree. I think the only thing that comes to mind off the top of my head is that the Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel suggested, again, it got that encouraging of people to play different identities and just to embrace it and stuff, but it didn't go into as much detail as to this and like giving advice on it, which I think is excellent to have. So yeah, absolutely agree. We've got religion. You decide to explore religion. Islam and Judaism both restrict the consumption of blood, although the existence of hypothetical sapient beings who must drink blood to survive has led to plenty of spirited debates about whether vampires could profess Judaism or Islam. Catholics, conversely, love a bit of blood drinking, but they tend to restrict their intake to just the Lord's own personal vintage. Jewish and Muslim ethics also generally forbid harmful magic, though the permissibility of magic for noble ends is, again, the subject of enthusiastic debate. However, the intersection of vampirism with these religions also relates to the unfortunate topic of blood libel. Blood libel conspiracy theories rationalize anti-Semitism by painting Jews as monsters who drink human blood. Similar conspiracy theories exist which target other groups such as Muslims. For these reasons, it's shitty to depict Jews and Muslims as bloodsuckers in a hostile context, reinforcing a painful stereotype. That said, in a vampire game where it's supposed to be fun to be vampires, we're not singling out Jewish or Muslim vampires out, it's also shitty to summarily exclude Jews and Muslims from play. If you have a Jewish or Muslim players, they get to decide whether Jewish or Muslim vampires are, well, kosher or halal. In general, though, we recommend that if you include Jewish or Muslim vampires, you keep their religious practices, expressions, and rituals separate from their acts of hemo, blood drinking, I think is what it is, the hemophilia. Ooh. That's good. Again, something I would not have considered because I'm not necessarily expert on religions and stuff. But that's again great that the writers, the game designers have gone through and gone, hey, we need to absolutely look into these things and like we want this game to be played by everyone. Let's make sure we have stuff on every topic that could come up, including religion, which it's very rare you see that as well. So I really like that. Very good. How are we doing on time? We're just over an hour. Okay. And then we go into the character sheets. Let's have a quick look again. So this is just going to zoom out. They're beautiful, aren't they? Oh, so good. So Irina, Old Money, Undead, Occultist, and Bon Vivant, black sheep of a well-established vampire clan, ancestral home in brackets and family torn apart by Nazis, providing a significant portion of Fang funding. Amazing. Then we've got the stats. Oh, a sec. Oh, God, my mouse is going everywhere. Got the stats on the left-hand side. I do love these character sheets. I love the design of them, or having like coffins and they're coming out of their coffins for it. I think that's so cool. Again, shame we don't have any alt text for it. And realistically, you'd only need to print off the left-hand side. I do like this right-hand side. But also, yeah, again, oh, stop it. The mouse has been absolutely wild. If I go to this one, yeah. What would be cool is if there was like a, if you were going to print these out, if there was like I'm sure there must be printer-friendly character sheets or a way to like get the character sheets off and put it into say an online format of some sort. Because I think there's a VT, I think there is a VTT for this. So again, I really love it. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love it. But it's like, can we take this character sheet and put it elsewhere? And I'm sure you can. We've got some advances, we've got some abilities there. My mouse is just going absolutely wild. I don't know why. All right. So then we've got Nicole, resistance, guerrilla fighter, and demolitions expert, packing more heat than a whole platoon. Lost your cell to the Nazis, bitter about it, bitten by your now dead vampire girlfriend, desperate to meet in glorious end in battle. And Cosgrove is a hackney necromancer taught by your aunt, medically dead but can still walk around and that can still walk around and that. On the run from the East London's undead mafia, crooked as a free bob note, but charming with it. Lots of weird black magic tricks. Oh, they sound really cool. They sound really cool indeed. Are these character sheets screen readable? Yes, they are. From what I can tell, as a quick read through. But again, I appreciate that's me just looking through just now, just highlighting stuff. If it's not, again, yes, I think they are screen readable, but I don't know. Again, the order of which the screen reader would read them through, and actually what they would say for these like fillable boxes. Actually, I do not know. It seems so good. The art is so good. It really is, isn't it? Again, they did do postcards for this. I hope they're available at Gen Con because I do like them. The fourth character we've got is Chuck. Grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, buried a sibling or two. Loves cowboy movies and honest work. Human livers? Oh, human liver? I think that's what it's supposed to say. Hang on. Actually, you know what? Why don't I check the actual text only one? See if it has it here. Using your character, who's who. There you go. Oh, look at that. So obviously that's without the artwork, but yeah, that's what it looks like without like having a character like that. And these are form fillable as well. I did not see that, so that's pretty good, isn't it? What does it say for loves cowboy moves? Yeah, it is human liver. Must be human liver. Oh, that's the one. Yep. Human liver and the open, wide plains. Genuinely decent guy, apart from the eating people bit. Fang pulled you out of jail after you ate a county sheriff and half his deputy. Now you're fighting for freedom rather than just to survive. I like how this character's got, like, you can see here, so, oh, stop it. Oh, thing. You got that tooth necklace that you could get as part of the box. And an ear. Delicious. Here's Astrid, ex-fighter pilot bitten by something after the crash in the frozen Taji? Parasite soul of a wild predator nestled around your heart. Now, ancient magic flows in your blood and wild spirits bow to you. But in case that fails, you also have a machine gun. So this is the easiest, simplest character to play. Which is quite good. Great image as well. And then we have Flint. Incredible. Love this guy. Honestly. Born in a cave, driven out by Nazis. Half bat, half human, all nightmare. That's what I want that on a t-shirt, I think. Monstrous hunter with a taste for blood. May or may not be able to talk. Possibly just shy. Again, I'm a big fan of characters that don't necessarily talk or aren't able to be understood clearly. So, like, I think I said it before, when we did Land of Eden, when we did a run-through on Where, my friend Callum played the gelatinous goo. And in the canon and the lore of it, we can't understand. It's one of those things where they'll say, like, and they go, "You're absolutely right, goo, we have to go up the mountain." But what Callum did was like he did a very Shakespearean, like sort of Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart like monologue, and be like, "No, I don't think so, Goo. That's not right." And so he would he would be like, "I will crush everything to get a hat for this party." Like, yes, we'll make sure we'll do this, etc. And they're like, "Oh, confound it," you know. So I love that idea of maybe a very posh accent that no one can understand. But I like that idea that this was designed for people who maybe are a bit shy to role-playing games, who aren't, you know, or just getting used to talking in the third person or something like that, or you know, that sort of thing. So I think that's really cool. I like it. Again, I said this before. I really like the thoughts design and the philosophy behind it, and I wish more game books did that or had a commentary from the game designer saying, "Oh, why we picked this and why we did that." I do find that really interesting. It doesn't necessarily help you play the game, but you know. Ooh, all right, come on, but why? Oh, mouse is going absolutely. Tell you what, I'm going to plug in the mouse because I feel like it's just having a bit of a Friday for some reason. I'm going to calm down. Oh. All right. Let's zoom in. All right, Nazis! Hooray! Boo! In Eat the Reich, the Nazis took control of the. In Eat the Reich, the Nazis took control of Germany in the 1930s and rapidly expanded their influence throughout Europe with an aggressive campaign of invasion, blockading, and terrorist tactics. Unfortunately for the Nazis' enemies, their technological superiority was only outmatched by their occult prowess, thanks to decades of frantic research by some of the world's most skilled and least morally upstanding wizards. The crown jewel of their burgeoning empire was Paris, and it is here that Hitler has planned to unveil his greatest creation so far, Nazi werewolves. Okay, that's probably why we wouldn't be seeing werewolves necessarily in this. Okay. Formed 6 months ago, in secret 6 months ago, this loose-knit organisation of vampires, walking corpses, morally grey wizards, and one hell of an administration staff are the Allies' last chance at victory. As Hitler prepares to reveal a new breed of fascist lycanthrope, a crack squadron of Fang commandos launch their final mission to crash land in occupied Paris, drink all of Hitler's blood, and fatally destabilize the Nazi war machine. Fang is led by Commander Slate, a mortar who reports directly to the Allied command. Slate's trademark clip briefing style and inspirational speeches have become a hallmark of Fang missions, and it is her leadership that has seen them succeed against the odds on a number of tense engagements. There is no official documentation concerning what the acronym FANG stands for. Boo. Maybe the formation and non. I don't know. Yeah, okay. I shouldn't improv. I shouldn't improv that sort of thing. Vampires. Vampires risk categorization. They're rare, they're secretive, and they eat people who ask too many questions. They all have a few things in common, though. They are tougher, stronger, and faster than normal people. They drink blood or eat flesh to survive. They possess a level of intelligence similar to humans. They can't handle prolonged exposure to sunlight without emulating. They, in brackets, they're mechanically, medically dead, but appear alive thanks to blood magic. Each of the player characters in Eat the Reich is some form of vampire, though they are not all the classic Widow's Peak and evening wear type. Fang has found a place for back alley necromancers, haggard ghouls, and cave-dwelling monstrosities amongst its friends. Fiona's nemesis, the acronym. Gosh darn it. Friends against Nazi something. Maybe Friends Against Nazi Goons or something like that. Gosh darn it. I look at that though. Loose lips stake hearts as a little thing at the bottom there. I like that. Internal Fang communications. I really like this interior art. It's so good. So evocative, so immersive. Alright, drop coffins. So the deployment of Fang squads is performed via the use of tactical drop coffins. A method so brutally efficient that it's only usable by operatives who are already dead. A drop coffin is a reinforced steel box rigged with pressurized cylinders of premium high-quality nun's blood. Ooh. All blood willingly donated by members of Fang's on-site convent, Our Lady of Perpetual Ruin. Mwah. Mwah. Yes. And some pneumatic shock absorbent to protect the structural integrity of the device. These coffins are carried over the target site in a high-altitude bomber, often shielded from enemy radar and scrying by a Fang. Oh my word! How on earth? Obfuscationist? Oof. Gosh. And drop directly into action. No parachutes are used. These would only slow descent, taking away a crucial element of surprise. The drop coffins plummet several thousand feet through the air before smashing directly into the ground, turning the occupant into a sort of mangled paste of gristle and bone. At this stage, the nun's blood is released into the coffin and the vampires within can use it to heal any and all wounds within seconds. After that, it's a simple matter of kicking open the lid and descending on whatever luckless fascists they've landed next to. Incredible. Look, what a great artwork. I love it. Oh, and this is an example. I'll go to the 2-page. This is see, I love blueprints like that. And you know what would make it even better? If there was alt text. It's so frustrating because it's such a beautiful, like, mid-page spread. And it'd be nice just to be like a little bit of, and I would like, I know it's like all written like this. It would be nice if there was a little bit like, needs more nun's blood, and where, you know, like I have like actually really detailed stuff. But I appreciate it's just artwork. It's not necessarily the a schematic. Oh, that's a shame. All right. Right, getting things done. So here we go. This is the actual rules. We're about page 30 now, so that's not too bad. But again, I think it's good that they've had the disclaimers and then the characters, like all that stuff at the beginning, because that's kind of straightforward, and it's good to get those out. And it's taking its time about it, which I'm not mad about at all. So, getting things done. As a Nazi? Nope. As a blood-drinking, undying creature of the night, there's very little the Nazis can do to stand in your way. Though they'll send squads and soldiers, and more dangerous and weirder things besides, against you, you can tear through almost any opposition with brutal effectiveness. Every action a player character makes is governed by one of 7 statistics or stats, which is listed below. We have brawls, killing Nazis up close; con, sway Nazis with lies, flattery, or charisma; fix, repair or modify devices or structures; search, investigate to uncover information; shoot, kill Nazis at a distance; sneak, avoid detection and minimize disruption; or and then finally terrify, scare Nazis into compliance. One thing I would like, again, maybe it's hard to do perhaps, I'd put Nazis, the example as always Nazis, to repair or modify devices or structures to harm Nazis, you know, that sort of thing. Investigate to uncover information about Nazis. Just to get that theme still going. When you're making an action, your stat will form the basis of the dice pool. Read on for details. So, turn order. The GM chooses which player character acts first, and once they've completed the process below, the GM can choose which character acts next. Once every player character has completed their turn, the Nazi reinforcements arrive if necessary, and a new round begins. So, I guess it's combat here. So, when it's your turn, determine what stat you're using to achieve your goals. There are more details on the stats above, so we know that. This will mainly be governed by the sort of things you want to do. If you're leaping headlong into a private box like the opera and murdering everyone inside, that's a brawl. If you're tricking a gullible officer into parting with information, that's con. And if you're hurriedly repairing an engine on your getaway car, that's fix. Grab a number of dice equal to your character's rating in that stat. If your action doesn't line up with any stats, either change it so it does, or roll 2 dice and count. Then, if you decide to use equipment or abilities during your turn, you can add a dice to your pool for each one you use. If you use a piece of equipment, spend 1 use of it. If you use an ability, spend any cost listed with the ability text. Usually you need to pay 1 blood. You can describe using the equipment or abilities without paying the cost to power them, but you just don't get extra dice as a result. We'll say this one at the top. So going out with a bang. The last use of any item of equipment The last use of any item of equipment that starts with more than 1 use adds an additional bonus dice to the pool. To encourage players to use their items and loot up and loot new ones, which is more interesting than relying on the same kit for the whole story. Wait, hang on. So the last use of any item starts with more than 1 use. Right, so that starts with more than 1 use. Okay. The last time you use it, you add an additional dice pool. So rather than 1, you'd add 2. I could have done with an example there because my brain just completely flipped over. Okay. Add bonus dice. So your equipment and abilities have bonus requirements. Situations in which they are especially useful or potent, which unlock extra dice when they are satisfied. The number of the plus symbol before the requirement shows how many bonus dice you will get to roll if you satisfy the requirement. So, for example, Nicole's submachine gun has the plus flanking requirement, so if you describe her attacking enemies from the side to bypass their cover, you can roll an extra dice to do as you do it. Generally, the more awkward it is to meet the requirements, the more powerful bonus dice you get for meeting it. Alternatively, some powerful pieces of equipment have a low number of uses, but can be used to gain additional dice with ease. So, for example, Cosgrave's stolen soul jar has only 1 use, but it can add up to 4 bonus dice to anything it's used on. That's pretty good. Hello, Glitch Goddess. How are you doing, my friend? Nice to have you here. You can also roll bonus dice later on while you're allocating the dice. It makes sense to do so. The GM builds a threat pool. Oh, okay, yes, one of these ones. Ooh. So the GM grabs dice equal to the current attack rate of the threat you're currently engaged with. Engaged with means involved with, active in fighting, or otherwise influenced. Fine. And then we've got a nice, a beautiful picture example here, which is very good. However, I would say, because there's no alt text, this doesn't mean anything. I know it says discard anything you roll between 1 to 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 indicate a success in some way. It would be nice if this was in text mode. Maybe, actually, that's a good point. What does it say on the text-only version? Oh, isn't that a shame? It's just a black and white image. Should have accessibility-wise. So, if you get a 4 or 5, it is just a success, or plus 1 damage, or plus 1 defense, or plus 1 blood. Get a 6 though for a player. Get 2 damage, 2 defense, or 2 blood, or activate special. Sadly, have to bail for session 0 now. Enjoy the rest of the vampires. Oh, no worries. I hope. Have fun. Enjoy. Allocate your dice. Allocate the remaining dice to one of the following: advancing an objective, eliminating a threat, defending yourself against attacks, feeding on Nazi blood, and activating a special. As you allocate dice, add 1 detail that describes the scene as it happens. If those details satisfy new bonus dice conditions on the equipment or ability that you're using, you can roll those bonus dice at the stage. Oh, okay. When you allocate a success to advancing an objective, reduce the objective's rating by 1. When you allocate a critical, reduce it by 2. An objective with a rating of 0 has been completed, and the vampires have achieved their aims. If the objective has a challenge rating, it absorbs that number of dice before it is damaged. So, for example, if you allocate 2 successes to an objective with a challenge rating of 1, you're going to reduce it by 1. Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Hatchling Games. Hello. Hi, Fiona. I hope you have a nice weekend planned. I do, thank you. I do. It is my partner's birthday tomorrow. So we're going on a bike ride, and then we are just probably staying in because there's apparently going to be another thunderstorm happening here. But that's good. It means we can just have a nice relaxing time. We're probably going to do some furniture stuff, which is good. I hope you've got a nice weekend planned as well. You've just in time. We've got the last half an hour of us looking at Eat the Reich, which was very good so far, I think. A couple of accessibility issues, but so far so good and enjoying it so far. So we've done that. So adding details like clearing a path towards something useful, lending support to an ally, interacting with the objective, drawing fire, distracting attention away from mission critical actions, and so on. When you allocate a success to eliminate a threat, reduce the threat rating by 1. When you allocate a critical, reduce it by 2. When it has a 0, it's been beaten back, whilst reinforcements will soon arrive. They're not immediate problems. They no longer inflict damage. If the threat has a challenge rating, then it absorbs that number of the dice before it is damaged, the same way as an objective. Interesting to know. Add details like ripping Nazis in half, laying down, covering fire, cutting off routes for reinforcements, sowing confusion and terror, and so on. When you allocate a success to defending yourself, remove one of the GM's interesting. Remove one of the GM's attacking dice. When you allocate a critical, remove 2 of their dice. Doesn't have special rules for 6 only yours do. Okay, so lots of rules. Excellent. Need to go back to mountain biking. Yes, that is the plan for us. The other thing is my mouse has gone absolutely wild for some reason. Don't know why. Yes, I very much enjoyed it. Last Sunday, I went for a big old cycle around where I am because we've finally got a bike for me. It was very fun, and I very much enjoyed it. I was very tired afterwards though because I couldn't finish the circuit I was doing, as I had to go all the way back up very many hills, and it was very, very tiring. So obviously this is quite important, this bit, and I feel like so we've got the main mechanic here on this side. This idea of like, okay, roll your pool at d6s. Okay, anything for 4+ is a success, which is great, and then you can choose to do one of these three things to add stuff. So 1 to damage, 1 to defense, 1 to blood, and then it says how we then assign it to an objective, a threat, etc., which is great. But then it would be nice if they had these like section headings saying like, okay, this is how you allocate it. So an objective is probably like 3, and you got 2 successes from like 5 and a 4. Yeah, so it would be nice to have some details about what this means, because I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? So I think what this area is covered, suppose, advancing an objective and then eliminating a threat, and then a little bit of defending at the end. What? So would have benefited from some headings here. Oh, let me move in a little bit more. Perfect. Add details like incoming fire, enemy advances, ducking into cover, getting knocked down or thrown about the place, improvising defenses, toughening it out and out through the pain, and so on. When you allocate a success to feeding, gain 1 blood. When you allocate gain 2. Add details like drinking Nazi blood, plucking out the hearts and tearing them apart with your teeth, using an officer as a human shield whilst you drain them dry, and so on and so on. Again, I get what it's doing, but it would be nice to have like little boxes or little just headings. That's what you mean by this, because I can imagine looking at this on a page going, I can't find it easily when I'm looking at it. And then finally, specials can only be activated when a critical is allocated. These represent uncanny or exceptional abilities that your vampire possesses, and allows them to break the rules of the game, do strange and interesting things. Usually, specials interact with strange and mechanics of the game, so they might let you inflict massive damage, complete objectives single-handed, reduce enemy damage, and the like. Your specials, if you have any, are listed on your sheet along with your ability. And add details that shed light on the special and how it takes effect on the special. I like that. I like that when you spend it, you add something to it. You're describing something. I think that's very cool. Good to have. Oh, I've got some suggestions here. All right, so let's see. So take control with details. The details here are just suggestions. You can put forward almost whatever you want, as long as the table is enjoying it. In many role-playing games, only the GM can describe the world around you and the actions of the NPCs within. Not so in Eat the Reich. If you don't want something to be present in the game, if you want something to be present in the game, introduce it. You don't have to ask, is there a door here? Instead, say, there's a door here. Or better yet, I kick the door and start shooting and go from there. The only thing you can't narrate is the actions of other named characters. That's the player characters and any important NPCs that the GM might have to play during the adventure. Nameless mooks are fair game, but if you ask for permission first, you can make a suggestion. Hey, could you throw me through that barricade? Is fine. The GM and other players have veto rights over any details you introduce, so even if they want you to change something, respect their choice and swap it for something else. Once you have allocated all your dice, the GM has any attack remaining, you roll for a category and mark an injury. If the GM has 3 or more attack dice remaining, you instead mark all injuries in that category and are down until another vampire rescues you. Else you'll be at the mercy of the Nazis, which you can learn more about injuries in the next video. We've got an example of play. Okay. I'm going to read this out because I think this is going to be quite important. Hopefully you folks can see it. So Irina has taken position up on the top of a clock tower and is covering the other vampires as they advance across an open square. The current objective is take cover inside the museum, which is the 6th, and the current threat is a squad of Nazi soldiers, 4, attack 3. I'm going to stay up here and shoot, and keep shooting Nazis so the others can cross the open ground. I'm going to try and keep them pinned down rather than kill them all. Irina's player grabs equal to their shoot stat, which is 3, and decides to use the exquisite hunting rifle and exploded runes equipment. They add a 1 extra dice for each. And seeing Irina is already up high, they satisfy the bonus dice requirement for the rifle, plus elevated position, so they grab 1 more dice for that too, and that's 6 dice in total. The GM takes 3 dice, the attack rating of the threat, and they both roll. So we have Irina gets a 6, 5, 4, 2, 2, and 1. We ignore those last 3, as we have 5, 6, 5, 4. The GM has a 6 and a 4 and a 1. They discard all the dice with showing 3 or less, and that leaves them with 6, 5, 4, and 6 and 4. Irina's character describes what the character does in the fiction whilst allocating dice. Okay, so my first shot takes out the guy. Oh, hang on. Okay, so my first shot takes out the guy on the light machine gun. Clean through the forehead, splat. Put that on the objective. Yeah, allocate the 4 to the objective, reducing it to 5, which is objective 6. The second shot takes out the spotlight that's shining on the square, plunging the whole area into shadows. That puts an objective 2. Put that on the objective 2, so they allocate that to 5, reducing it to 5. My last dice is a 6, which counts for 2 successes, so I'm going to use that to knock your attack down to 0. They allocate interesting. They allocate the 6 to defending themselves, which moves the 2 attack. We see a few soldiers kick in the door of the tower I'm standing in, but on the other side of those doors I've etched explosive runes and they detonate, collapsing the entryway. Seeing as those runes were hidden, the explosive runes is ++ concealed, I get 2 bonus dice for that. And they roll 2 dice, scoring a 4 and a 2, discarding the 2. As for my last dice, I stick it on the objective. I sling my rifle on my shoulder and leap out of the side of the clock tower onto the adjoining roof, and start running towards the museum. They allocate the 4, so it goes down to 3. The GM's attack score is 0, so Irina doesn't take an injury this turn. The GM chooses the next character to continue, and the act and the play continues. Okay, perfect. Absolutely what I needed to know. Again, my issue is, I've got the blood thing in a second. That previous 2 pages would have been nice if they had that. I'm going to keep going on about these heading stuff. I think that's so important to find quickly or have them in boxes, because this play example makes it very, very clear. But yeah, I found it a little bit tricky to comprehend just reading it through. How are we doing on time? Less than half an hour. Okay, we're almost done before it gets to the scenario. So, blood. The vampires drink blood. To represent each individual's vampire's hoard of gore, Eat the Right uses blood with a capital B. Players can just resupply this mystical resource by spending successes to suck it out of Nazis instead of attacking, defending, or advancing the objective. A vampire can hold a maximum of 10 blood. When an ability or rule says you spend blood, remove 1 blood from your stock. Healing and some other powerful abilities requiring more than 1 blood to activate, and this is stated in their descriptions. At the start of the events of Eat the Reich, every vampire has 0 blood. They used up all the supply in the coffin drop to fuel the regeneration. Best get to drinking. Injuries. As tough as your necromantic form may be, you can still be hurt by lucky shots, sufficient weight of fire, or the nightmare cult abilities of enhanced adversaries. If the GM still has attack dice remaining when you have no dice remaining, excuse me, you mark an injury on your character sheet. Each character has unique injuries and unique problems associated with it. Oh, that's quite fun. I like that. When you mark an injury, roll a d6 and tick off the first box in the relevant category. You've already marked the first box in that category, mark the second. You've marked both boxes in that category, an alternative one, and mark the box in that. When you mark the second box in the category, you're subject to some kind of penalty associated with the injury, usually one that limits how you can use equipment and abilities, messes with gaining or spending blood, or changes the values of your stats. Kieran says, those pages felt very information dense, and I think adding headings to break it up would help alleviate that when reading cover to cover. That was just making it easy to find the information you need in advance. Yeah, couldn't have put it better myself. Sometimes you read stuff and you're like, I have absolutely no idea what I just read. But I do think that play example was very helpful. But yeah, absolutely, just breaking up the text, especially for something like this. I know again it's coming up with those vibes of like it's a World War II dossier with things. It has to be a certain style, which I totally get. But having like a heading like this, like downed, works really well. If the GM has 3 or more attack dice remaining when you have no dice remaining, you're taken down, pinned under rubble, shot to bits, briefly paralyzed, rendered insensible, and so on. Roll an injury category as above, and then mark off all the available boxes in the category. Until another vampire comes to your aid, you are out of the fight. Rescuing you becomes a new objective, usually rated between 2 to 4, but the exact rating is up to the GM. If they can't rescue you before moving on, you will be captured and at the mercy of the Nazis. Sharing blood. Blood can be freely shared between vampires as long as they're within arm's reach of each other. The precise nature of how blood is shared, transfusion, feeding, mystical vibrations, infernal contracts, is up to the players involved. I like that. I think that's quite cool. Death. If you mark all 6 injuries, then you are dead. Consult the last stand section of your character sheet, come up with some dramatic fiction that lines up with it, and roll 8d6. Apply them to the current objectives and threats however you like, describing your final sacrifice before retiring from the game. If you have a special that lets you heal injuries, you can't trigger it as part of the last stand. It is your last stand, so once you trigger it, you're out of the story. I love that. I love like a final moment or your swan song or anything like that. Great. Love that idea. And maybe let's have a quick look. Why don't we just have a look? Say, let's do Cosgrove. Come on. Stupid thing. Right, let's zoom in. What does it say down? So Cosgrove, we've got some injuries. So again, just careful in terms of like gore here. Contact warning. So we've got lose some fingers, have your arm ripped off. So -1 to all stats. Sucking chest wound. Oh. Shot in the face. +2 terrify, -1, -2 con. Oh, they've not got a. Interesting. They don't. That's not a tick box. That one. Oh. And it was. 1 second. Oh. Yes, I see it. You see that grimoire damaged? We can't see it. Oh, it's not tickable. Wards compromised. You can't spend blood to use abilities. And then it says undead horde. Nice. It doesn't even tell you what kinds to do. Yeah, and those ones are ticked off. I think it's just Cosgrove's that last box. Not that's a shame. I wonder if that's the same in the actual book itself. Let me zoom back out. But I appreciate this. Like, why do you care? It's like, I have to know these things. Because that could be quite important to the player that's playing Cosgrove. Chat. Yeah, it's not there on the main book as well. Oh, that's a shame. Again, I think they've just missed that. So not deliberate. All right. This one. A little bit. Right, healing. So you can heal an injury by spending free blood at any time. When you do so, erase the check mark next to it. If you mark the same injury again after you've already healed it once, the mechanical penalties are the same, but you should still free to describe it in the fiction the different effects. Yes. Objectives and threats. So everything in Paris can be divided mechanically into objectives and threats. Objectives are tasks and or challenges that the vampires must overcome to complete their mission. Objectives form the core of each scene and chart the party's progress throughout the city. Each objective has a rating between 2 to 12. The higher the rating, the more steps to be completed before the goal is achieved. When objective's rating reaches 0, it has been completed. Ask the player who removed the last point to describe what happens. So here's an example here of one, like inside the German technology pavilion, and that is 6 is the target number to get. Threats represent the Nazi forces defending the city who will attempt to stop the invaders at every turn. The more threats in play and the longer you've been active, the more danger and the vampires are in. Each threat has a rating just like an objective, but they also have attack dice. Attack dice are rolled by the GM when the player acts and determines whether or not the character suffers an injury. So here we've got the infantry squad. It has another 6 as the sort of targets. What's it called? Like ratings. It's the rating, so 6 rating and attack 3 as a result. When a threat's rating is reduced to 0, reduces attack to 0 as well. The Nazis have been killed, routed, or otherwise obstructed. But they're not gone for good. See reinforcement rules below. Vampires don't run the risk of being injured when they act. Vampires don't run the risk of being injured if they act when there's no threats engaged with them. The GM has no dice to roll. Players can divide their successes between all present threats and objectives and play as they wish, as long as it makes sense within the fiction. Alright, reinforcements. Let's see what this is. Zoom in a little bit. My eyes are struggling a little bit. So, Paris is crawling with Nazi scum. There is no way that even a force as capable as Fang could hope to put all of them out of action. They'd be overwhelmed long before they make an appreciable dent in the defensive forces. At the end of each round, if a threat is reduced to 0 rating, restore its rating by D6 and return its attack to half its starting value rounded down. In addition, increase each active threat's attack by 1 as the Nazi forces close in on the vampire. If the GM rolls 0 successes in their attack dice, increase the threat attack by 1 once the player has resolved their actions. The end of the round is a good moment to check if this has been applied. The reinforcement rules do not apply to the Übermenschen and certain elite operatives, but their attack ratings starting higher than to compensate. When their rating is reduced to 0, they are dead, and the associated threat is permanently removed. Ask the player that killed them to describe a suitably impressive death. So let's have a look at this example. So again, I'm like, this sounds good. Like, it could be complicated for the GM. So, the vampires are in combat with an infantry squadron. So the threat is 6, and their attack is 3, and a police patrol, which is threat is 4, and the attack is 2. As half the party are focusing on attacking the objective, the other part try to fight off the Nazis first. Focusing on the infantry squadron, Astrid inflicts 4 damage and Chuck inflicts 2, so the squadron rating goes down to 0. When the other 2 of the squads roll to come over the objective, the GM rolls 2 attack dice, the police patrol's attack, rather than the higher attack of the infantry one. If the infantry one is still in play, the GM will roll 4 dice. The infantry squad rating plus 1, to reflect the fact there is an additional threat. The police car is in play. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's not... Okay. It's still like, you're not doing it for individual stuff, you're just like, 1 plus this other threat. Interesting. Okay, because that could get overwhelming quick. At the end of the round, the GM handles the reinforcements. Police patrol car closes in and increases their attack to 3. The infantry squad regains a D6 rating of their new attack, and their new attack is the original value halved and rounded downwards. Yeah. All right, I understand. Whoa. Reinforcements caveats. So the reinforcement rules keep the pressure on the vampires. If your players want a more relaxing time, or you don't want to faff about with keeping track of ratings or damage, you can ignore and reinforcements and increase ratings damage by 1 to 3 points instead. In this case, when a threat reaches 0, it is removed from play. Challenge. Not all challenges are made equal. If an objective or threat has a challenge attached to it, it negates successes spent to lower its rating value. Its challenge. Oh, of course. Oh, I understand. Yeah. So if an objective is challenged 2 and you assign 3 successes to it, you're going to reduce its rating by 1. The challenge applies each turn to each vampire engaging with the objective or threat. So if you spend 4 successes on your turn overcoming a challenge 1 objective, it only counts as 3 successes. So it's almost like armor, so to speak. Scenes. Objectives form the core of each scene. So once an objective is completed, the scene is over, unless you've got multiple objectives as mentioned below. If the objective involves moving from one area to another, and many of them will, vampires push on and leave the threats in play behind. They may return later on, but for the time being, the player characters can catch their breath and establish a new objective. Secondary objective. So when a vampire is downed, they're given a mini objective all of their own to represent the efforts of their teammates rushing in to rescue them. For all other situations, secondary objectives represent useful things that the vampires can do that will assist them with their mission, but aren't crucial to their overall success. Though we've written some into location descriptions, secondary objectives are often invented on the fly by the GM in response to player actions or improvised details in the scene. When a player completes a secondary objective, they choose one of the following effects to trigger. So we've either got reduce the primary objective by a d6, that's pretty good, reduce the threat by a d6, gain d6 blood, reduce a threat attack by 2, and reduce a threat or objectives a challenge by 1, and gain access to an unusual or powerful piece of equipment. You don't have to use this mechanic for everything the players want to do. Their off-mission actions can often just be folded into the general narrative, but it can be fun to give a player a spotlight moment as a reward for trying something interesting. A secondary objective should have a rating equal to roughly half of that of the main objective. Yes, so they don't have to split their time between the two, like worrying which one's the actual objective. Once per objective, if you find something interesting and want to keep hold of it, write it down in your loot slot on your character sheet. Work with the GM to determine the bonus requirement for it. Look to the existing pieces of equipment for inspiration or select one from the list below. After that's done, it functions as a piece of regular equipment with 3 uses and a single bonus requirement. Remember, the last use of any item of equipment that starts with more than 1 use adds an additional bonus dice to the pool. When a location contains a particularly impressive piece of equipment, it's listed underneath its description within the scenario. These will genuinely have different numbers of uses to or increase bonus dice, so keep tracking. Sometimes these come with a secondary objective attached. They're the objective and you're not. Okay, there's a lot to it on that one. I think I understand it, but again, maybe a little bit information dense, as Kieran has been saying. You don't need to do this every time you grab something, only if you want to carry it around and use it to gain dice on your rolls. So for example, you can describe turning a machine gun on an instant squad of soldiers as part of the shoot action, but you don't have to allocate it to a loot slot unless you take it with you. Okay. Oh, I see. Right. You can discard your loot at any time and replace it with another piece. You can have several pieces of loot on your character sheet if you want, but only one of them is mechanically available at one time. Very good. We've got some examples here of submachine gun. We've got fragmentation grenades, luxury car, tank. Perfect. All good stuff. Flashbacks. So once per session, when you roll 2 successes or fewer, you can trigger a flashback to spur yourself on to victory. You won't let Hitler win this easy. Roll on the flashbacks table to define a question or choose one that appeals. Answer it by describing a brief scene that happens in the past on a past flank mission. The other players can help. Where the table states character, randomly determine or choose a player character from ones present at the session. When your flashback is over, add 2 dice to your pool and then roll all your dice again. The second result stands. I love this. I love this mechanic a lot. Once per session. Nice. That's pretty good. I like that a lot. If you roll the same as another player, it happens on the same mission. Oh, nice. We've got... what was it? You roll 2d6? Oh. Excuse me. Aboard a plummeting aeroplane, rescuing a prisoner of war in a thunderstorm, assassinating a Nazi general at the opera, extracting a spy from behind enemy lines, stealing a cipher machine from a submarine. I did say submarine earlier, didn't I? Sabotaging a field gun with improvised explosive, and then the question. Nice. So you saved character from a certain death. What nearly killed them? You recruited character to Fang. What did it take to get them on board? You owe your life to character. How did they save it? Character told you a few tricks. What was the most important lesson? You won't let character see you fail like this. What do you respect about them the most? You won't let this character see you fail like this. What do they respect about you? Nice. I like those. Nice, simple, and uses the D6 still. Pretty good. Right, look at these. Look at the detailed image you have at this. Hang on, let me zoom out a little bit. Oh, almost finished time there. Look at the rats. Great, aren't they? Love them. And then we're going to go... It goes into the actual structure of what the mission is, which I won't reread. That's fine. We've got briefing, coffin pulse. So again, the structure of the actual mission itself. Onwards. Climax and the epilogue as well. Doesn't say... What? Doesn't say anything here about the... what we said before about the... Sorry, brain has gone dead. The debrief, Stars and Wishes stuff. So maybe that will come up. Again, maybe it's something to include next time, perhaps. Running the game, pacing. Again, you could say all these things to the players, so it's almost like a little script, which is nice. Convention games. I'll read this aloud. I want to see. So, running Eat the Reich at a convention has a different set of expectations. Players who you may not know very well turn up and expect a whole story start to end in about 3 hours. In this case, rather than letting the table mediate the pace of the game, got a clear end in mind. At the start of the 3rd hour, the vampire should enter Sector 1 on the map. It is your job to make this happen. So cut past bits you'll linger on, skip sections, remove Nazi resistance in areas to allow players to breeze through them without opposition. Give them an armoured truck to drive headlong into the endgame. Reveal the hidden rocket boosters on the base of the Eiffel Tower, etc. Now, this is a tricky game to run at conventions because it's splatter horror and deserves a good long list of content warnings. If you're planning to run this, be extra careful and deliberate about setting up your safety tools and make sure your players know in advance what they're getting into. 100%. Definitely, like, running convention games to, like, your home game or games for online is such a different beast altogether. And admittedly, I've only run them at UK Games Expo. But there's certain crowds of stuff, people who aren't actually used to safety tools, which is kind of important to do. So yeah, I always try and spend a little bit of time doing it, but try and do a truncated version that keeps people safe and stuff, but talk about why the X-File is important. Right. And there's some advice for, like, playing Nazi NPC, which is good. I'm looking at all these images. Oh, I did want to read this one aloud. I wanted to read the accents bit. So, if you want to do accents for different nationalities, it is up to you. In play, generally we don't. Mainly because as non-natives, we struggle to come up with a different German accent for every Nazi, so they all just sounded like the same guy. And also because the accents are one of those things that can be actively harmful if you're not on point. If you do want to do ways to differentiate your characters vocally, the accent style popularized by The Death of Stalin and Chernobyl can be a solid choice. That's a good shout, actually. Death of Stalin is a cracking film where they all use their own native accents to describe, rather than all of them trying to do Russian accents. Hello, Super Dylan. Hello, my friend. We're just finishing up, but we've just had a nice hour or two looking at Eat the Reich, which I bet you'd absolutely love, actually, if you've not looked at it already. But I hope you're doing well, my friend. Hope you're doing well. What was I going to say? Transpose familiar accents from your country onto another country and go from there. But if your Bavarian lilt is as reliable as your Stuttgart twang, you can and you can always pivot with ease to your Dusseldorf rogue, then by all means, go for it. Nice. And then we've got, and this is the map stuff. I'm going to move this back to 2-page view. Look how cracking this map is, and all the different places you can go. Absolutely cracking. And then we go through all the different bits here. Yeah. Coin there. Excellent. There you go. I'm not going to read through the adventure because I don't want to spoil it for folks. Because again, it is just a one scenario that you play through. But I think it's good overall. Oh, look at that image. Spoilers. And the final scene. And this was the checklist we were talking about earlier. So let me make sure I read it. So here are 4 degrees of bad behavior with examples of some limits you might want to apply to your game. The table can go over the individual bullet points and discuss whether or not you want to move them up and down a scale. You probably have a couple of points you want to add or subtract yourself. So we have sort of categories. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see it. An evil inherent to the setting which we will engage with but never question or interrogate. Evil which we will engage with which may be a point of conflict between characters. Evil which will happen but the players won't do it and will oppose it when it shows up. And then evil no one does, not even villains. There you go. So you got those 3 categories which you would then agree to and then add things or move stuff up and down. I think that's cracking. Great shout there. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. That's a 2-page spread. It says, again, I would like this as a clean page. All right, what's wrong with you? Sorry, my mouse is going wild again. I'd have this as like a printed checklist sheet, like have it out so that people can read it, and then we can always move things up and down, perhaps. Have that as part of the session 0 stuff. I think that's kind of important. Oh, gosh. And then we have at the back, we have games in which, Eat the Reich was inspired by. So we've got some touchstones here. So we've got Danger 5, Glorious Bastards, Evil Extraordinary Gentleman, which I actually great film. Although it says here, look, it's not a great film. Hang on, let me. Sorry. It says, look, it's not a great film. We can all agree on that. But the Mina Harker bits are very close to what I aim for with Eat the Reich, and I'd say about 40% of it is similar. Stuff. Oh gosh, if I can say that. I can't. It's a bit grim for me, but it's Alan Moore, so it's worth sticking. This is a Suicide Squad. This is actually a lie because I finished the first draft of this game and then watched the Suicide Squad. The 2021 with John Cena in it, not the 2026 with Jared Leto in it. Almost immediately after doing so. But yes, absolutely, the tone, visuals, and effects are bang. Oh, and characters are bang on. Hellsing, the anime which gave me my first taste of vampires as superheroes. I think this is an absolutely cracking anime. Yeah, it's very violent, it's very dated, absolutely, but I really enjoyed it when it first came out. Gosh, I really enjoyed it. So, 100%. Oh, yeah. And then what else we've got? Hollow Point, Wushu, Die, of course we've got Die. Havoc Brigade, yes. So basically the same as Wolfenstein, yeah. There you go. Further adventures as well, and there's some examples there. Well, there you go, folks. There you go. Come on. Why is my mouse not working? Let's go back to the actual page, and we'll go back to page 1. So, that was a Whistle Stop tour, as always, going through an RPG, and this time it was Eat the Reich. I appreciate I've gone over time, so I will be quick. So, what do we think of it? Firstly, what a way to really give out the themes and invoke those vibes of what this game is for the artwork. I think absolutely commendable to Will Kirby for just getting the brief and just doing an incredible job. I think not only is the artwork gorgeous, all this interior art, graphic design is fantastic. I think I haven't played it yet, but I love it. Yes, no, I have also not played it yet, and I also love it now. I think it instantly knows what it's driving for. I think the stuff which talks about the tone and taking the content and those content warnings and stuff, it took about probably 8 pages to go through every little bit. Ooh, sorry. And I think it was great as a result. I think it's nice for a game to be like, look, we know what this game is. Here it is. It is literally a one scenario, 1 to 3 sessions about drinking all of Hitler's blood as vampires, and then being able to break from that concept, like everything that could be like problematic with it, and then not justifying it at all, but sort of being transparent about it. I agree with what Kieran said earlier. It's been nice, as always, to have content warnings that aren't necessarily hidden away at the bottom of the first page. That it should be up and bright, but also on the website as well when you're buying this. And I think some of the advice and stuff, I think is really, really good. That again, I would put out for free on the website and stuff, because I think you want to show people what your games are about, and not like I don't want to say trick them into buying your games. That's not what I'm thinking of at all. But I think just be loud and proud about what this game is. As a result, I think having the pre-generated character sheets is a great shout. To be honest with you, I think they're all beautiful. Absolutely, I would definitely have them as postcards, which I know they do, which is amazing. I did like. I mean, I know I asked about pronouns earlier, but I did like how it said here with playing out with identities that nothing is assigned to them. It's obviously the images obviously invoke certain things, but you can change that whatever you want. I like the discussion about religion and what that means with sort of vampirism. So clearly that people have done their research in that fact that, as it says here, like Islam and Judaism restrict the blood drinking, and there are like obviously not rumors, that's not what but obviously horrible stories about certain religions using blood and demonizing them and stuff like that. And how do you talk about it, and how do you play those sort of things in your game should you want to play them in your game? I think that's really cool to have those discussions up in front in the first 15 pages or so. So I really like that. I do think I do like the censoring of it, but it does feel a bit random, and it does feel like we could have some more headings, certainly later on when we talk about the game mechanics, which is a little bit later on, understandably so. But like if I skip ahead a little bit, I'm gonna go. I love the idea of drop command. I wish there was alt text for these artworks. To be honest with you, I think it would be great to have it. The allocate your dice section should have been split up a little bit more. I do think it was information dense as well. It took me a little while to understand what was going on. I do think, again, this dice mechanic here, absolutely no alt text for it. Unfortunately, not. It's a visual representation, which is great, but if that doesn't come up, that's not great. And even in the black and white version, text only version, that was just the image as well, which I don't think is very good. Again, I do think it's quite easy to check out. I did like how both the character sheets. Oh, sorry, let me zoom out a little bit. Both the character sheets, which you can get separately, and the main web version are screen readable to an extent, I think. And also, you can change items. You can it's form fillable as well. So you could send people the actual book, and they can use it there as well. So I think that's great. Lots of really good things, actually. I really have enjoyed this one. Would I play it? Absolutely. Would I run it? Absolutely. I think there's a lot to it there. I don't know if I would run it in public, as I sort of joked about before. Would we run it in a bar, in the back room of a bar? And it's like, well, people might overhear that you're shouting about Nazis and stuff. So maybe not the best thing, perhaps. But yeah. No, I really like it, and I really love the colours. I think it really pops, the colours, and it's just so nice to see art used in such a way, I think. And again, just a few tweaks in terms of accessibility, I think would work really well. I guess the question remains is like, this is a one scenario, but like it is always going to end like your coffin dropped in, you're fighting your way through, and then obviously the ending thing is that you drink Hitler's blood. Fine. I do wonder if there could be some other scenarios that come out at a later point, but using the same characters. Again, I don't know. It's just because I think it's such a cool concept that I think people would like to keep playing it over and over again. And they've got all those locations and stuff like that as well. So it'll be different each time you do it. But yeah, no, I love the concept. I love how wild it is. And as I said, the fact that the Kickstarter trailer had Sharmini Bundell doing the voiceover for it, so I'm like, tick, tick, tick. Well, there you go. So that was Rowan Rock and Descartes' Eat the Reich, written by Grant Howitt, and art and graphic layout by Will Kirby. So if you feel interested, please go check it out on their website. If you've got the backer, if you did the Kickstarter and you're getting the big box, I'd love to know why. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not fussed about the ephemera stuff, but I guess if I can look at, have a look. See where is trade. I don't know if they'll have any of the merch for Eat the Reich out now. Probably not. Probably not yet. They'll probably put it on after Gen Con. Probably, yeah. There you go. But thank you so much for being a part of our Friday. Too long didn't read tabletop RPGs. God, the hair has gone everywhere. Thank you so much. If you found this really super interesting, check out What Am I Rolling, which is a twice-monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast. Another episode is going out on Sunday once I've edited it. I've not done that yet, so that's why I need to go off and do that. If you're interested, and that's where we do lots of different RPGs and interviews with game designers, and just, let's play something different each time. I've enjoyed this. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Kieran. Thank you as always for your comments and stuff. Yeah, I absolutely very much appreciate, because otherwise it's just me talking to the unknown. And also, I would say, I don't have all the answers at all. I'm not a game designer. It's just something that I always think about now when I look to run games. So thank you very much. If you're interested as well, there's DM's Book Club, which is a D&D lore podcast, where we look at some lore and see how we can improve it and put it for any system. It doesn't matter if it's D&D or not. So that's that as well. If folks are still interested, I should have done this at the beginning, but I got waylaid. I have been nominated for the Best Podcast Host category in this year's Critical Awards, which is very, very exciting. If you've not voted yet, do consider putting a vote for me, but also please check out all the other categories. I know there's so many of them, and you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? But to go check out them all and go follow their work and stuff. It is, it's always lovely to be nominated, but also appreciated for your work. And everyone has been nominated for a reason, so it's always worth checking out to see what's going on. Maybe that you could change. Maybe you want to check out that solo game. Maybe you want to check out that new stream of an RPG that's been nominated. So always worth looking those up. I will be back next week. Hopefully with the mouse behaving itself. We'll find out. But for me, where am I? Just going to see what games we got coming up. There's my. I was like, where's my Discord? There you go. Next time we have, next Tuesday we've got Ion Heart, which is a solo RPG. It comes from the creators of Parable Games, so the guys behind Shiver. It is a solo mech exploration RPG. No idea what it's going to be about. Looking forward to it. And next Thursday we've got Locus, 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 which is a horror game, which my friend Liz Campbell, who was here earlier in the stream, was bought at UK Games Expo, and she said I would enjoy it. So I've got that. And then finally, we've got The Woods at Blight Hollow, which, again, I think it's a Kickstarter that I helped fund a little while ago, and they've got their book out. So I was like, well, might as well have a quick look at it. So there you go. As always, if you've got suggestions for an RPG that you want to see getting the too long didn't read RPG treatment, maybe not the best treatment in the world, consider joining the Discord. It's always a little bit of fun. Again, it's quite quiet in there. We're just nice people talking about RPGs, and every so often I go, I'm streaming, come join. So go check that out as well. That's it. I appreciate I've run over time a little bit, so apologies. I hope you have a wonderful Friday evening or Friday day, wherever you are. I'll see you back next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Play more games as always. I will find the end of stream button, and there we go. I'm going away, and see you next time. Bye. Mwah.